If you experience gender dysphoria, I have good news and bad news for you. Now, the bad news is for most of us, gender dysphoria will be a part of our lives forever. The good news is that sounds a lot worse than it actually is. There is a lot you can do to reduce dysphoria's effects on you, sometimes to the point where it's near non-existent. Now, to answer the question as to how much you can overcome dysphoria, I'm going to give you the fascinating science behind dysphoria, as well as practical and psychological ways to begin healing. Now, believe it or not, there's actually scientific studies that show biological reasoning in the brain as to why some people feel dysphoria. Basically, cis women and cis men have brains that are slightly different in terms of gray matter. Gray matter is the thinking part of the brain. In this study, trans women had brains more in alignment with cis women, and trans men had brains more in alignment with cis men. Now, this study was done on a relatively small scale, and for scientific certainty, there's a much higher standard that needs to be met as far as how much studies are conducted. However, there's two more studies I will mention here. This study, published in 2020, concluded that gender was more dimensional than it was binary in the brain, and again in 2013, another study shows that transgender individuals had brains more in alignment with their experienced gender. And the reason why I provide this information in a video about how to overcome dysphoria is because it's important to understand that the way you feel is natural and not something to be ashamed about. Now, gray matter is kind of neat, but let's take it one step further to really drive home this point. The human brain responds to odors in very specific ways to gender. This is baked into our DNA. And you already know where I'm going with this. The VU University Medical Center showed that transgender brains responded in alignment to their experienced gender. Now, this is incredibly important to note because this cannot be affected by external factors. This is baked into DNA. These studies show a biological and scientifically tangible reason behind gender dysphoria that must not be forgotten. Now, of course, these aren't the only reasons as to why one might feel dysphoria. There's a lot of reasons that come into play. I mean, humans are complex, but all of them are just as valid as the other. So let's talk about healing.
What am I gonna do now?
The road to healing from dysphoria takes time and is different for everyone. However, whether you're trans masc or a trans femme, these practical approaches can help. Here are just a few very easy things that you can do in the comfort of your own bedroom. Going out of your way to explore unfamiliar media that's usually adopted by your experienced gender, searching for gender-affirming role models in anime, and trying hobbies associated with your gender can make a huge difference. But what's most important is that you choose some things that you can visibly gauge progress in. For trans women, this could mean learning makeup, practicing feminine hygiene like exfoliating, moisturizing, and shaving, adopting a feminine workout routine, or voice training. For trans men, this could mean working out to build strength, which is incredibly euphoric, or voice training as well. The main thing here is that you're setting a goal that you have control over your progress in, and then, of course, actually progressing towards that goal. Now, all of this can be done in the safety of isolation, so let's talk about social interactions. Sit back down, don't run away just yet. I have good news for you, regardless of your ability to come out. The human brain is a lot easier to please than you may think, if you're willing to put in a little bit of effort. Things like D&D and online MMOs can bring you so much experiences. Now, I know it may not sound like much on paper, but when you immerse yourself into these environments, it doesn't really matter what it sounds like on paper. At its core is human interaction and the ability to express and explore yourself in a safe manner. Now, of course, you want to work towards gathering the courage to meet people in real life, but this is a great and safe way to start. My recommendation to you is downloading Final Fantasy XIV and joining a roleplay server because there's a lot of LGBTQ members in there and it's free to play. I'm not sponsored, by the way, just a good recommendation, do it. When it comes to healing psychologically, there's a few things to consider. First, the practical steps and goals you set out for yourself will do a lot of the work. Naturally, being in a better and more accepting environment, as well as appearing the way that you want to, will do wonders. That said, there's another big part to all of this, and that is acceptance. Accepting what you can and cannot control is essential to begin the healing process at its core. And I realize that might be painful at first. It also might not be what you want to hear, but it's really important, so that way you can focus your energy on what matters the most. And what matters the most is what you can control and realizing what you truly want. This might sound overly fluffy, but I think when it's boiled down to its core, aside from things that are gender specific, is being loved for who we really are. And again, a relationship and a friend isn't going to fix all of your issues. Your own perception of yourself needs to change too, because you should and can be happy alone as well. And what that means is understanding that your expectations of yourself should be defined only by yourself. It means taking control of your own life and your own happiness. See, it can feel painful to always think what if, and rarely ever is it actually something that serves any form of positive purpose. But it's inescapable. It's something we all come back to from time to time. But if you want to know my honest opinion, It's that you're perfect. Pursuing self-improvement is great, and we all should, but just know the nuances that make you exactly who you are important. I don't like calling people special because you and I both are not. We're just normal, which in itself is special. And because of your nuances, when you do experience the things you've wanted to for so long, it will make those so much more special too. You don't need to be someone else to be happy, to experience your dreams, or to be who you think is worthwhile, because you already are worthwhile. The fact that you're seeking this internal struggle and trying to face it head on already sets you apart from so many others, and that's amazing. In peak moments of dysphoria, trying to separate yourself from the negative thought patterns is essential, but also knowing all the worst thoughts you have about yourself many others feel is important too. The impossibly high standards set by TikTok and other media is damaging even to cis people. Detach from those thoughts and focus on something in the now, like a hobby, talking to a friend, or reaching out to a community. But most importantly, if things get really bad, professional assistance can help a lot and should never be overlooked. Call hotlines if you need to. I have a link to Psych Central below with hotlines that can help in multiple regions worldwide. Or just look up global helplines or helplines in your area. So what's the end goal? I want to keep this as summarized as possible so it can be memorable. Eliminate internalized gatekeeping behaviors. Work towards healthy relationships and environments. Remove toxic people and habits like addictions, and begin your internal journey towards accepting who you are in all of your beautiful complexities. And above all else, remember your scars make you truly beautiful.